Let me start tonight with going over what I'm calling my lesson. And this will be lesson 4. And I've defined it as SMART goals. And this is just my way of trying to help individuals understand how, well, I guess what my belief is on how you should be looking at creating goals for yourself, especially if you're in the trading market. And I just think there's some things that are rather important, because every time I talk about goals, I hear 2 questions over and over again. And it always happens through the month of January. What do you think the market's going to do this year? And what are your goals for 2024? They're intertwined, but my goals are really simple. My first goal is a 7.75% return. That is always my first goal I'm trying to hit. It's because that equals the last 50 years S&P 500 average. So my first goal, no matter what the year is, my first goal that I'm trying to achieve is to hit the 7.75 return, which is the last 50 years S&P 500 average. Second goal is a 15% return, which is just doubling the 7.75. My third goal is a 20% plus return. And at this point, my money management changes to not losing this amount of gains. And it's always the same. Nothing changes as I create these goals for myself. It's not these are just general. These are just general. I'm going to go over what the markets are going to do in 2024, because as I'm preparing myself for these goals, I've created what I call a SMART goal setting pattern. And it's simple. The S in SMART stands for simple, specific, and on a schedule. It comes back down to the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. What I'm setting for a return are just like the primary exits for your trade. I'm deciding on a specific amount, which is, inevitably the 7.75, but I'm coming up with those based on the spreadsheet I shared with you. It's funny because my target price for Apple is 243. Where I really think Apple's going to hit is 212.96. How did I come up with that? Well, I came up with a PE that I want to use of 30, a little bit higher than the current PE, a little bit higher than the forward PE. Earnings, 7.12, or it can be an earnings of 8.12 because I usually underestimate by $1. That will give you a target price of 243.60. If I use, or how I came up with this one, all I did is use their regular earnings per share times the 30. Kevin, I thought you said you'd want to add by $1. That is correct. Normally I would. That doesn't mean that they're going to beat by $1. In fact, their revenue has been coming down. For that reason, if you're going to ask me if people are heavily vested in Apple, I'm going to start trimming positions at that 205 to 210 range. Kevin, what would you put it into? Well, I'd want to replace it with something in that technology area. There are a couple I would be looking at. I really like Baidu's price target of 238.26. Meta's price target 459.94. Google at 180. There are different areas that I could be at. If you really were to ask me, I'm leaning towards Micron. Micron right now is trading at $88, could very easily go to 131. Kevin, why are you leaning towards upper price target versus your 115? The difference is they're due to make money from the government. So if they're going to make money from that government, that changes their revenue. I truly keep it simple stupid. My specific amount in what I go into has to match my target prices. I schedule it in a planner. I remember that return is over a year's period of time. I look at my goal on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis so that I understand where I'm at and how I'm going to get there. Number 2 is measurable. A lot of people set a pinpoint goal. I want 20% a year. I disagree with pinpoint goals. I believe they need to be a range. I call it a range because that's what happens in real life. Real life, things come up. And when real life, as things come up, I want to set a range goal, something that gives me the opportunity to fall somewhere in that range so I can accomplish it. One, because a lot of people, well, I should just say this, and I'm going to ask you guys as a group. How many people follow through with their goals? How many people follow through with those goals? In fact, what normally happens to beginning of the year goals? If I was to ask you, usually a lot of people start their goals, and inevitably what happens is you get discouraged. Your goal is maybe a pinpoint goal without a range goal where it seems unable to get to. And that's where you run into problems. 3 is attainable. A lot of us create unattainable goals that are not goals, but they're dreams. They're a wish list. They're something that you just want to happen without understanding the effort or the process to get there. Want to be a better trader, want to be a full-time trader, want to be a stay-at-home dad, want to be a millionaire. This is a wish list. It's not a goal. It's not something that's attainable. A lot of times I hear people, especially this last month, I hear people talking to me and saying, hey, and the effort that it takes to get there or how to get there is unattainable. As of most recently, I've heard people changing their trading philosophy. I didn't meet the market returns last year. I didn't do this. It doesn't do this. The year before, they were all in. This is the best thing since sliced bread. I just spent 15 grand on this process, blah, 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 blah. And next thing you know, they're now looking at creating a whole new methodology or following a whole new methodology. That is not attainable. It's not realistic, which is number 4, realistic and relevant. What you're doing has to be a proven methodology. And you have to understand that methodology. sometimes it's not always the easiest. How do I say this? Sometimes it just sucks. Sometimes, even when everything is supposed to align, it doesn't align. How realistic, how relevant was the goal? And have you ever hit it? Can you hit it? Again, it takes the work of spending time going through, putting the effort in. But it's a matter of putting that information in and doing the work. Goals are troublesome because inevitably we want them on a time period that's our time period. And if you haven't learned, sometimes your time period is not the market's time period. Your time period might not be your money manager's time period or ability. Your time period might not be God's time period. Sometimes I look at the market and I say, yes, it's an act of God that is changing or making this so blasted difficult. You've got to find some support through these times.